So you know I'm Canadian.
I didn't know that.
You did not know that?
I did not know that. See, I didn't. I heard a Canadian joke earlier. We're at the Extreme
Cowgirl Challenge in Leota, Kansas.
Leota, Kansas. Yeah, we're there. And I did hear someone make a Canadian joke and looked at you earlier, and I was like, I don't get it. So I didn't know that.
And I heard there's a team here from Calgary.
I did hear that.
So
yes.
I need to go and introduce myself to them
You
because
do.
I feel like that's been so
they're
weird.
your
I've been too
people.
focused.
They're your people.
Yeah, they're my people. They're my people.
So what part of Canada?
So I was born in Calgary, Alberta.
Okay.
Okay. And I didn't stay there for very long. My dad was in the oil business. Uh-huh. And so we transferred, I think I might have been 6 months, and we were living in Chicago. And shortly thereafter, we transferred overseas, and I lived in Egypt. That's really where I grew up, was in Egypt.
Okay.
Those are all my first memories. My childhood memories were
in the oil industry.
Yeah, he worked for then Amoco, which then became BP when they took that all over. And so he was always had his sights on international movement, and so we went to Egypt, and that's where I grew up. That's my first formative memories. So
wow.
Yeah. So I lived there until I was 8 years old. In the Middle East.
So did you speak any foreign languages?
No. I could count to 10 in Arabic. I could still do it for you now. But no, I didn't speak the language. And kind of grew up in that culture without any concept of what North American culture was. Mm-hmm. And that's very odd, right? And so because I had blonde hair, that was another thing, which was a magnet for people there, and they always wanted to be around. Well, my mom was uncomfortable with that. She didn't want them near me. I was a little kid. But yeah, it definitely shaped me because I think I was maybe nine when we left Egypt. Mm-hmm. So all my schooling, in those formative years was there. And then we moved back to Chicago. And we were in a suburb of Chicago for another 5 years. And then he took a transfer to England. And so I lived in England for 2 years at that point in time. And, as life has it with its ups and downs, there ended up being some challenges between my own parents. And so I ended up staying in England with my dad and my mom and my brothers. They went back to the States. Wisconsin is where they were because we had built a cabin down there. So lived in Wisconsin. Ironically, that didn't last for very long because then they reunited and they reconciled all their things and we moved back to Calgary. But so I didn't actually make it back to Calgary until I was a sophomore.
Okay.
Right. I had gone and lived in all these different places, and I finally came back as a sophomore, and then felt kind of like an alien because I didn't really understand Canadian culture. I all of a sudden didn't feel very Canadian. But that's where I then lived out the rest of my years. I went through, college there. I got married there. Had kids there. All our families are there. My mom and dad, my brothers, nieces and nephews. The whole crew is up in Calgary. Okay.
Still? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And at some point when we finally migrated, we moved to the country. We moved to Cochrane, which is like maybe a suburb, be like a 45-minute drive from Calgary. Mm-hmm. A lot of good horse people out there. But at that point in time, I really had gotten out of the horses because I was raising a family. And it wasn't until, so just bringing you full speed back to where we are now, about 12 years ago, we had this opportunity to move to Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And the kids were 5 and 7. 5 and 7, 5 and 8. And we just kind of said, if we're going to go on an adventure and going to go somewhere, this is the time to do it because they're small enough. Once they get entrenched in sport or they get their friendship, groups established, it gets harder for people to make that choice. Mm-hmm. And so we just did. We cut bait and we moved to Oklahoma.
Yeah. So now you skipped a bunch.
Okay.
So we went from 12 years old. So now you have a couple of kids, and you're moving to Oklahoma. Okay. So
you want all the middle story?
Yeah, I want it all.
Yeah.
And so you said you had gotten out of horses. So when did you get into horses?
So this is a funny question. So I think about it all the time because I can remember, even when I was young, gravitating towards this photo that had been taken of me on a sorrel horse at my grandpa's farm in Saskatchewan. Mm-hmm. So that's the neighboring province to Alberta. So I'm little. I'm itty bitty. They're still holding you up there. They're worried you're going to fall off kind of thing. But the smile on my face, it just when I look at that picture of myself, it resonates to me that I was doing exactly the thing right in that moment. And I was itty bitty. I didn't know anything. And so in my mind, in my world, in my life, I knew that it was horses. I did. I read all the horse books. I loved, but we weren't in a position to own horses because we
Right.
lived overseas.
Yes.
And I mean, nobody was ag in my family. That's not, that is not the background I came from. And so when we moved to Chicago, I would have been what? I told you, I think I was 9, right around there. We lived there for 5 years. I would never shut up about horses. I would never stop reading about them. I would never stop. And so my parents sent me to a summer camp, a horse camp, 2 weeks overnight. I'd never been away anywhere overnight, like at a camp on my own. And they assigned you a horse at the beginning of the week. And I got some grade mare that was salty as all get out. And you did everything with this horse. You bathed it, you groomed it, you fed it, you played, cowboys and Indians down by the river. And I mean, we did just crazy. We jumped, we did everything. But this was your horse for 2 weeks. Well, I fell like head over heels. It was my first love.
You had the
it
bug.
always,
Yes.
it always had been. But this was just like the immersion. I couldn't even process it. It was just the coolest. So then I never shut up about it when I got back from camp. I never shut up about it. And so Mom and Dad finally said, you know what? We're gonna get you signed up for some horse riding lessons. You've always wanted to do this. I was over the moon. Do I get to have boots? Do I get to have all the things, Yeah, they took me out and they got me boots and we were going to go and do riding lessons. And it was John Garvey Stables. I don't even know if they're still there, just in the outskirts of Chicago. And I show up there. I'm going to have a lesson with a woman named Lisa. Why do you remember all these details? Because it was that important. So we get there. It's kind of a fancy barn. It's kind of a show barn, and I mean, I'm overwhelmed. All these people are walking around. And I'm walking up and down the aisles and I'm saying, oh, I love that gray horse. It reminds me just of my Capone. Capone was the name of the horse that I had at the camp. Oh, it just reminds me of my horse Capone that I had at the camp. And so, sure enough, we're walking up and down and my mom and dad stop at a stall. And they're like, there's another gray one. And so I come down to this stall and sure enough, the plaque on the front of the stall reads, Miss Capone, owned by Jenny Brown, my maiden name. They bought the horse.
That's so awesome.
They brought it to the stable. They took me to the tack room. They bought me a tack box, saddle, bridles. They didn't know anything. It was the grandest surprise that you could even imagine. I mean, to this day, I still think, what were they thinking?
Yeah.
But that's how it started.
That's how it started.
That's how it started for me.
Okay, and then you took lessons there?
Yeah, I did.
You did?
Yep.
And so it was more like, was it like 4-H or open shows?
No, they showed. They all had
they
100.
showed?
It was a 100 jumper kind of barn.
Okay.
Yeah, 100
English,
jumpers.
yeah.
Yeah, I rode 100 jumpers. That's
Okay.
probably the other thing you didn't
Yes.
know is that's the trajectory
And
I
you
was
do
on.
eventing, 100 jumpers or what?
No, so it was just 100 jumpers.
Just 100 jumpers.
No
Okay.
eventing.
Okay.
And but back then, I mean, the horse I was riding was not skilled. It was not talented. It was a great horse. And so she shows up and she's like a plug in a barn full of really elegant horses. I mean, European warm bloods and all the things, and you're walking around thinking, princess, this wonderful horse is amazing. And she's just, I mean, people are, I'm sure, rolling their eyes everywhere. What is that? But I didn't know any different.
One of these don't belong.
Which of these things doesn't belong? One of these kids is doing their own thing.
So how long were you there at that barn, and did you work your way up? What happened there?
So I stayed there and I learned a lot. I mean, I say I learned a lot. It's all relative. But I learned how to manage a horse. I learned how to be a good steward and, care for a horse. And I stayed there the whole time that we were in Chicago. Then when my dad got transferred to England, I had to part with the horse. But I
Okay.
couldn't do it. I couldn't part with the horse. I loved her. And so that was a kind of sad story because we took her up to the cabin in Wisconsin. We had friends there that had a pasture. They were going to keep her. So I'd have her in the summer.
Okay.
And she wasn't even there for a week. And they ran her through a barbed wire fence and she ripped. I mean, it was a sad ending, a real sad ending. Because then I went to a new place and I'd lost my best friend. And, it was just a lot of bad things. We weren't in a position to own horses over there.
Right.
And so it was a good long time. It felt like it to me anyway. I think I was 15 when we had finally moved back to the States. In the summers, we came back. And I got a quarter horse, a cute little quarter horse. He was cute. He was fun. And I rode I just kind of trail rode him. I didn't do anything by that point. I didn't do anything. And like I say, it was kind of a strange thing because until we moved back to Calgary, and I would have been a sophomore, so by then, what am I, 15 or 16 years old, something like that. I still had this sorrel horse that I love, this little trail horse. But when we got there, that's when finally there was like a commitment. I wanted to show. I wanted to do this. And of course, we had Spruce Meadows in Calgary. And so I grew up, riding and training hunters and jumpers there under a coach who was very good at what he did. He got results. We might have been the winningest barn, or it felt like we were anyway. All the show curtains and the ribbons. But that was the first time I really realized that through a very domineering style of coaching, shame and humiliation were really powerful motivators for me. And it was gruesome. I mean, and I was a perfectionist at heart. So, I succeeded in spite of myself is really what it was. I mean, I just was so driven to win for the team, to win for him. And I had really good stock under me by that point in time, I thought I was living large. I thought I knew all the things.
Got it.
I knew it.
Got it.
Mic drop.
Yes.
Look at me.
Yeah.
I trained under him. I worked for him. I had a ton of different horses.
So how old were you at this time doing all this?
So this would be all the way right through. So I rode with him right throughout till I was 26.
Okay.
Right. So, but this point in time when I started working for him, he'd had an accident at the gym. And so he needed somebody to come and train clients and horses and whatnot. So that was all maybe when I was like 19, 20 years old.
Okay.
Right.
And so you were out of high school.
Yeah, I was.
And then you went to college, right?
Oh, I sure did. I came from a family that was hell bent on you got to go get a degree.
Yeah, you're going to get a degree.
You're not. That's not optional. I wanted to train horses. That's what I wanted to do. That was not an option from my family standpoint. And it's hard for me to talk about that a little bit because they were also supportive. I mean, I told you the story about the horse they bought me, right? But it was not optional. You are going to college. And it was right on the heels of this coach, tough guy, but he offered me the entire business because he was getting older and longer in the tooth. He wanted to kind of pass that on. And right as he was willing to do that, the answer was no. And I was not in a position in my life where, I know a lot of people would say, you can't tell me no. I took the no. I took the no and I did it. And I don't regret it. I mean, I never have any regrets about any of it. When I talk about it, I always think it's serendipitous how life kind of flows. It ebbs and flows and it brings you back to a place and you go, strange how that all came together.
Yes.
So the reason I say that is because my parents were super supportive, but they wanted me to have a degree, period, full stop. That's how they were wired. My brothers were super smart. They were engineers. They were off doing their thing. You had to go get a degree. I mean, I kind of shrugged a little and went, all right, I guess I'll go get a marketing degree, which I don't regret because later in life, you're going to run a business. Hey, that's pretty handy.
It's pretty handy. Yes.
Pretty handy. So I went and did that, and I got real competitive in school. I mean, I'd never been a good student. Average, real average student. Just kind of got through it all. Horses were my thing. Then I went and started to excel. And I mean, I graduated with distinction in the end, which nobody could believe was even possible. And then when I finally finished that, I got a job working with the Canadian Pacific Railway. Okay, which is one of the big 6 national railways in North America. And I was, started out as a customer service rep. Then I became a marketing rep. And then I was an account manager, junior account manager. And before you knew it, I was a senior account manager. And I was handling, a portfolio. That all meant something back then. Worth a lot of money. And I was living large. I was being mentored by the president of the company to be a general manager. And then I got pregnant. And, in Canada, you get a year mat leave. When maternity leave, you get a year.
Oh, boy.
And you're getting paid.
Yeah.
Right. But the problem is your kids get really fun right about a year. They start to talk and walk and want to do really fun things. It's harder to leave them. Okay. And I just felt like called to be a stay-at-home mom. Upset the company. I mean, they tried everything. They were like, come on, even if you come back for a little bit, they didn't care. They wanted me to come back. Then you can go back on mat leave. I mean, that's what most people do is they go and have their second child and then go again. Nah, I couldn't do it. So I left that. Now, how old would I have been? I worked for that company for 10 years. So I'm probably like 36 at this point in time, right?
So you're 36, married, one kid?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And just threw myself into that role, threw myself into motherhood. I loved it. Where are the horses at this point? So I still had my quarter horse. I'd sold the show horses. They were too much. There was too much money in those horses. When I had to finally adult and I wasn't on the dole, those show horses had to be sold and gone.
Okay.
But I ended up having my own quarter horse and I trail rode. I had grown up in an English saddle. I'd ridden in an English saddle. I'd jumped my whole life. I really didn't ride Western saddles. But, to trail ride, I'd put one on and feel kind of all gawky and awkward and go do my thing. But I didn't ride that much because I had, little ones. Next one came along 3 years later. And again, stayed at home, raised kids, and just trail rode, just had fun. I missed it. I mean, I missed all the things about competing, but I didn't see how I could ever have a path back to it because there was not going to be the money to get back into the, hunter-jumper world, especially not in Calgary, especially not at the Spruce Meadows level anymore. That was not going to be a reality for a young family. So I just kind of resigned myself to the fact that it'd be okay to love a horse and just, ride a horse. The funny thing about life is it never stays the same. So you just think you're always in this place that it's going to be the same.
Yes.
It's not the same.
No, it's not.
It's not the same. And so in there, when it's kind of a bizarre twist of fate, but we have the Calgary Stampede up in Calgary. Okay, and everybody loves the Calgary Stampede. It's just wild Western event, so much fun. You get to watch Calgarians walk around with their hats backwards all week long because they don't know. They only wear them once a year. Yeah, it's so great.
Hey, my wife was headed out the door the other day, and I said, "Hey," she said, "What?" I said, "You realize your hat's on backwards." She said, "No, it's not." I said, "Okay." And she pulled that thing off, and she says, "I said I should have let you. I think we were teaching a clinic or something. I said I should have let you just go up."
See, when I do shit like that, I literally say to myself, and everybody around me, "It is my first rodeo.
Yeah, first rodeo. Yeah.
I am a fake cowgirl."
Yeah.
Anyway, so Calgary Stampede. We got the kids. We're gonna hang out, and there's a sign. Saddle Dome is where you see all the hockey games played or whatever. Saddle Dome is sitting there, and there's this big sign. It says Extreme Cowboy Race, and they're flogging this thing, and you guys all got to come see this Extreme Cowboy Race. Okay, so there we go. We're gonna sit in the stands and watch this Extreme Cowboy Race. And dang snap, I mean, I loved it. Immediately, I loved it. It was so incredible to watch people have that kind of level of, at that particular group of riders, I will say, in that year. They had all this precision work on these horses. They were doing obstacles. They were doing reining and performance maneuvers. They were cutting, roping, doing all the stuff. And it just thrilled me. Like, it literally thrilled me to watch it. Mainly because I'd been looking for somewhere to get back into something and thinking, God, do you think you could do that? Could you even do that? I mean, they're riding a Western saddle, but do you think you could do this? Well, at the same time, this was the other thing I forgot to tell you. You always forget details, don't you? I had picked up two-year-old colts.
Okay.
I was just going to dabble at starting them.
Oh, this is your first ones too. Yes.
And I'd been a student at groundwork. I'd watched all the Clinton Anderson videos, so I knew I was an expert for sure.
Got it.
I know what to do now. Yeah. That formulaic approach actually really worked for me.
You're lucky you didn't have YouTube.
I didn't. I wasn't super techie, but I promise you, it made me laugh because that being a perfectionist and not having like a ton of knowledge right there, when you have a formulaic approach that's so ironclad, you gravitate towards that. You're like, step 1, step 2, step 3, I got this. And dang snap, didn't I just get these things started? And they were fantastic. They were amazing. So I thought, look at how amazing I am.
Got it.
Yeah, I got it. It's not the way horsemanship works.
I'm a horse trainer.
Which you can only imagine, having had that thwarted earlier in life. It was just like so gratifying.
Yeah.
I mean, this was like I was living so large. So
yeah.
Anyway, so this Extreme Cowboy Race comes up. And we watch that, and I'm thinking about these 2-year-olds. I'm thinking about how exciting that's going to be. How could I start them? And then we get the transfer to Oklahoma. So we pack up we don't have a house. We're going to build a house. We're going to build a barn. We're going to buy raw land. We pack up our horse trailer in December. We leave Canada on December 30th. I'm not kidding you. And we drive through the snow and the ice and the crazy weather with 4 horses in tow. 4. And the front compartment packed with everything we need to camp. We're going to camp for 3 months until the house is built on our property. Okay, well, we didn't understand Oklahoma weather, nor did we understand tornadoes, or that it was not really super safe to camp through tornado season. Yeah. We did it anyway.
Yeah.
And we arrived there, and I can remember pulling in black as night and rainy on New Year's Eve. And we had hired somebody to build our pasture fences. Our first job was to get water troughs filled and walk a fence line and make sure there were... It's dark. It's pitch black. We've got to be able to release the horses into something contained. And that's how the journey in Oklahoma started.
With 2 2-year-olds.
No, they were... So we had 4 horses at that point, right? We had 4 horses. So the 2 2-year-olds that I'd started. And then we had bought an Icelandic horse for the kids to learn with, which we loved her. And who else was with us at that time? Oh, I had bought a horse for Scott to try and ride and dabble with. Yeah. So, and it was a nice little horse. But got down here and I just kept thinking about this Extreme Cowboy race. I was so fixated on it. I don't know why. And I hooked up this group called the Bad Girls Riding Club.
Oh, boy.
Bad Girls Trail Riding Club in Oklahoma. And I feel certain even today that I was the baddest thing that ever happened to that group because they were so lovely. But we went and rode, and we're sitting around the fire one night, and this woman says, yeah, I'm going to a clinic with Johnny Clem. He's an extreme cowboy racer. And I mean, my eyes perked right up. Who is he? Where's he from? Does he have any spots in this clinic? I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, and I've got this horse now, that I'm thinking really could go somewhere with it. And she didn't know. So I just looked up Johnny Clem, and I called up Johnny Clem out of the blue. And I'm pretty sure he was frightened by how dorky I sounded, how much experience I lacked. I mean, he tried to talk to me about what my level of experience was. Oh, I don't have any on that.
Very cordially.
No, I've been doing hunters and jumpers my whole life, but I just got into this thing and I really wanted to do this. He goes, yeah, that clinic's full.
I can see Johnny saying that.
That clinic's full. But I was persistent as hell. And I said, well, I mean, okay, fine, that clinic's full, but when's your next one? I don't have one scheduled. Well, do you do private lessons?
Nope.
I can. I mean, I can. Oh, okay, good. When can you? I mean, I just was relentless. And so he sets this up, and I'm going to come up there. I'm going to drive up to Joplin. I'm going to overnight, and I'm going to do one afternoon, and then overnight, and then do the next morning. And Johnny's nervous about this for a million reasons. So he ain't going to put himself in a position. He's got to teach this crazy lady that he doesn't even know. He calls up Christy Bennett on our cowboy team. And he says, Christy, you and Cheyenne need to get over here. There's a lady coming for lessons tomorrow. He needed a buffer. And they were the buffer. And they were the first people I met all those years ago. In 2000.
And they're here with you today.
Yeah, they are.
Today, this weekend.
Yeah. Christy Bennett would be like the sister I never had. That would be who she is.
I see.
She's taking care of me.
Yeah, she's
She's the kindest, biggest-hearted woman, but a hell of a hand and just great. So supportive. So we've been friends ever since. But anyway, that day, she took me kind of under her wing. Like this is what happens. These are the obstacles you have to do. And Johnny taught me a ton that day, and I had success with that horse. A lot of success actually. And I was hooked. I was like, yeah, we're going to do this. So I did. I started just showing up at the shows all by myself. I didn't have anybody. I just showed up. And went and tried to make this thing happen. And I kind of had some success over that deal. I was like, I think I know some things again. Right? I went from knowing things and then I knew nothing and now I'm back to knowing things again. At some point, you win your first buckle. And you think this is the biggest deal ever. Well, the funniest thing is, they made me ride as a novice when I started. No, you haven't ridden obstacles. You're a novice. I go, well, I'm not super novice. I mean, I've been riding horses my whole life. Like, really old. No, you're a novice. Okay. So I worked my way up to novice and intermediate, and then into non-pro. And I didn't wait for anybody to move me out. I moved myself out all the time, trying to get better, trying to be around people that would drive me to be better and get better. And at some point, somebody brought up the name Jim Anderson
Yes.
because he had been doing the Extreme
Yes.
Cowboy Challenge. I mean, he'd been a Road to the Horse winner, but he
Yes.
had won, on the Extreme Cowboy Challenge for a few times. So I went and watched some videos right there. And to me, it was like night and day. To me, it was.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I could ever get my horses to be that soft and look that responsive and learn how to do all these performance maneuvers, that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the next call. How do I figure out how to get into a Jim Anderson clinic? Which is impossible. You can't get into one. Well, then you couldn't. But ironically, they set this clinic up in Texas, and that would have been probably 6 years ago. And I've gone religiously every year since. Because then you realize, oh, hell, I never knew anything.
Yeah.
The more I learn now, the less I ever knew.
Yeah.
And Christy just said it to me the other day. She said, the more I hang around all you people like you and Jason and all the other cowgirls, I'm like, I used to think I knew something. And every day I live, I think I never knew anything.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
That's what I told her.
Yeah. You go to Jim and I go out to Nick's and it's just incredible. The amount of, you got a hole in your lip there, pouring beer, pouring a Corona down her face.
Literally, I don't think
she missed her mouth. Hole in your lip.
all together. Like, can't feel my lips. They're so windburnt.
But we try to get around that to better ourselves and find a mentor. And I think it's really important for people to find mentorship with people. And you can learn off everybody. But I think it's really crucial to find a specific mentor, to kind of hone your skills on. And, like when you seen, well, that was loud. When you seen Jim, you looked at it and you're like, I don't know what that is, but I want some of it.
100%.
And that's kind of how I felt, watching Nick's stuff. It's different, and you can watch a lot of trainers, and their way works too. But you have to find something that corresponds with what you like. And it doesn't make anybody right or wrong. You just have to find something that corresponds to how you would like for your horses to be. And I think that's very important.
100%. And then also when you have a door open for you and it's like this moment of enlightenment, like all of a sudden the light rushes in and you go, I actually never knew that this was possible. Like this level of connection, this level of relationship with the horse, this level of try and drive that is coming organically from this horse because I have for the first time in my life been able to execute a process that I can articulate, verbalize. It's clear. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly seeking for that open door for you to find it. Mm-hmm. So I look back, I go back and think about all the things I thought I knew along the way. Mm-hmm. And then I think, God, I didn't even come to this journey, but 6 years ago. And when you look at that trajectory over 6 years versus the 40 years in the rearview mirror, you just go, oh, gosh, why didn't I know all this before? I'm too old to know it now. I should have known it when I was younger.
And I think the biggest difference in people like those two that we just spoke about and a lot of other programs and a lot of people seek the program, they seek the formula. And that won't work with a horse, in my opinion. But you can have a set of principles. And if you have a set of principles and everything aligns with those principles, there's several different ways you can get to where you want to go.
100%.
But the principles have to be aligned. And I think that's as long as it doesn't contradict the principles.
Right.
And I think that's what sets those people different, is they follow a set of horsemanship principles. And it doesn't matter what they're training. I think a lot of those great trainers, it wouldn't matter if they're training circus horses, cow horses, pleasure horses, race horses. It doesn't matter. They would be a horseman in any of it, and they would be winners.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I love to think about, I don't know, sometimes something hits you and it's poetic, right? But I've always thought about that quote by Maya Angelou where she says, you know Maya Angelou? Mm-mm. She's a civil rights activist, poet. She's written memoirs. Really very enlightened woman for a number of things, but she's not a horse person. I mean, this is just something I apply to it. She has this quote, it's famous, and I use it all the time in life, which is, when you know better, you do better.
Yes.
When you know better, you do better. And what does it offer? It offers you the forgiveness for all of the things and the horses that came before you didn't know. Mm-hmm. You did what? So instead of the model that I came from, which is all guilt, shame, motivated, like a lot of negative energy, a lot of negative pressure to get you to be compliant and win. Well, look, that's what I knew at the time. So, I mean, I can even forgive myself back then because I was a kid. But it's also a statement that brings great responsibility with it. Because now that you do know better, when I'm riding a horse and training on a horse now, and I really need to fill that piece in, but now that I'm doing that, I think it's literally like I can be riding around my arena and it's like having a mirror. A mirror is sitting right there in front of me. And all of me, the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's reflected right here. And so when I think about the horsemanship journey, yeah, we're improving horses, but it's a cathartic journey. And it makes me want to even be emotional and cry about it because what's actually happening is I'm becoming the best version of myself and the most authentic version of myself so that mirror gets held up and it reminds me of myself as an infant on that sorrel horse in Saskatchewan with the smile from ear to ear. Why? Because now comes full circle and there's pure joy. There's moments of just pure joy and it's in the simplest of things and it's never in the winning.
No, for me, it's not either. I've heard some big time athletes and successful people interviewed and they talk about getting to the apex and winning that Super Bowl or whatever. But there's a short period of release, and a high, and then it's real short lived. And you're like, I thought it would be different. And it's not.
Yeah.
You're just the same. You bleed red afterwards. You're the same person afterwards as you were before. But that drive to get there again is what that we hunger for. But I think we always have to remember you have to learn to not just enjoy the winning, but the journey, or else winning will be everything. And I don't care who you are, you won't be happy because you're going to fail more than you succeed.
Well, and you'll abandon your own horsemanship in it.
You will.
You will abandon your horsemanship.
You'll throw the horse under the bus.
Yeah, you will.
You will do it.
You'll go to the other methods that we also know are successful.
Yep.
You'll go to the other
Yep.
methods, but you won't be able to hold that mirror up.
That's
You will
right.
not be able to. You won't be able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, "I did right here."
Right.
By my process,
Right.
by what I believe in, by what the journey took me to. You don't get led to a path
Right.
by serendipity and grace, and then ignore it when it's convenient for you.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly right. And you have to enjoy that journey, or otherwise it's like I tell a lot of people,
Thank you.
a lot of people they dread Mondays. I wrote a blog on my website once called Mondays Coming, because what people do is they don't enjoy the journey because they're not where they want to be in life, but they sell their time to a miserable job that they don't like, but they're doing it because they feel they have to. Okay. Now, they could have another career, but what does that involve? What have we done as horsemen? You have to suffer. Believe me, there will be suffering in anything you get that's good. Yeah. There will be suffering. And so what happens is they go to work, they live for Friday at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever it is when they get off. That's what they think about from Monday on. Oh my gosh, Friday, oh, it's going to be here. But here's the deal. They do that because they're ready for the weekend to get in their nothing box or do whatever they want to do. But here's the deal. They actually only have one day. Because Sunday, they're dreading Monday.
Yeah, they are.
So they don't even enjoy Sunday because it's not fun. It's like, oh man, it might as well already be Monday because I got to go back to work tomorrow. And
Is that not a that is the truth?
Enjoy it.
It's the truth.
We're here all weekend. We were up 36, 40 hours or something to get here. I have no idea. It was a long time. We got here at 5:05 in the morning. I think the team meeting was at 8 for Carrie. And the show started at 8:30. Okay?
It was extreme.
And it's like this. Now, it's a little more laid back for me because I'm not showing. I'm the show mom here. Show dad, whatever you want to call me.
You are.
Yeah. And what'll happen is we will leave here tomorrow. And no, I don't take Monday off. I'll be riding horses. I have lessons in the morning to teach. And I don't dread it.
Yeah.
I don't dread it. I mean, I never dread Mondays. And I think everybody should get a job that they don't dread Monday. If everybody had a job, find some way to not dread Monday, they would be a lot happier. But what they do is they don't enjoy the journey. They
100%.
live for the weekend. They live for the win. And a lot of them don't even enjoy Saturday because they're so hung over from what they did Friday night.
Exactly.
You know?
You've wrecked your whole weekend.
So you're hung over Saturday, and then Sunday you're just depressed because you have to go back to work to that, assembly line or whatever it is. And if that's what you like, that's fine. And there's some people, they're fine with that. That's what they like. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I mean, I don't have a bunch of entrepreneurs in my family. They all do different things. I'm the only horse trainer. I can assure you of that. You know, my dad's in the aerospace world. My mom is retired, but she was in the worked for everything from Walmart to outdoor cap company. Okay, and I think there's something for everybody, but I'm okay with that as long as they don't complain.
So I think it comes down to mental positioning too, because you can be an entrepreneur and you can think of every minute that you're working as Friday at 4:00, or it can be Monday 8 a.m. Mm-hmm. It's all about how you're going to shift that perspective. And the thing for me anyway, is that how do you shift that perspective? Because come on, sometimes work is harder than others.
Yeah,
sometimes it's harder.
There's parts of every job.
Right.
We've talked about that here. There's parts of every job that we like and some that we
endure.
Endure. Yes, that's very true.
But when I think about it, it's like I'm not a writer, like a journaler, but it's like a mental journal that I'm constantly keeping in gratitude, so that I can never forget the fact that I was a little girl that wanted to be a horse trainer. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do that because I didn't have the strength to do that and say no.
Yes.
And so all these years later, at 52 years old, 50 is when I started this business. 50. I'm 50. And I redefine myself and I say, God, I am darn well.
That's what I'm going to do.
I'm going to do it.
Yes.
I wanted to do it my whole life. And if I don't do it today, then when?
Yeah, this is not dress rehearsal.
Right.
There's not a rerun. You don't say, oh, well, that steer wasn't very good. I want a different cow. Yeah. This is life.
I do think that sometimes.
Yeah. This is life, and that's how it goes. And it all comes down to what are you willing to sacrifice and endure. That's it. Mm-hmm. Because if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
Everybody would do it. So you just said you've been in it 2 years.
Yeah.
And so you've established a new mentor in Jim Anderson, and that's kind of your mentor you go work with. And so where you're in Oklahoma, and you have two boys, and they're all graduated. They're in college, right?
One's in college up in Nebraska, and the other one is going to be a senior in high school next year. So he'll be moving on. But now they're all very independent young men.
So now you have a training facility in Bartlesville,
Oklahoma. Sure wish I had an indoor pen, but man, I tell you, those colts, they get broke in the Oklahoma wind.
Yeah, but you stay good and cooled off in the wind. Yeah,
in February, for sure. Sure I do.
Yes. I tell you what, I don't envy you at all. But that colt that I got of yours, Merlin, I was in the outdoor pen one day, and I'm like, hey, this is a breeze for him. He thinks this is great. He's used to it. I know Jen doesn't even have an indoor, and I have a small one, but it does get me out of the wind and weather.
Oh, heck yeah.
And that's a lot. I'm very fortunate. I can assure you, I did not have an outdoor. I was talking to Nick out there, and he said, before I had all this fancy stuff, I had a little bitty dusty round pen out there. And he said he had some kind of a weird hat and a set of goggles, like a suit and a pair of coveralls, and he would train those colts. I started him out there in that round pen, dusty round. That's all they had there.
That's hysterical.
I'm like, and people need to understand that. See, people think we're just born with this facility or this. Man, I wish I could train horses all day like you do. I said, okay, what's stopping you? Well, and then here it comes.
Yeah,
here comes
all
the
the
excuses. But, they don't understand that even the people like him at the top or people in the middle or at the bottom, we all start somewhere.
Right.
And a lot of us have to start with not so great facilities.
And like I say, it's a statement of gratitude. Every day I wake up, I'm like, well, I'm so grateful that I have this really nice sound footing and great sand pen to work in.
Yes.
I try not to focus on the fact that, the wind is blowing at 50 miles an hour, and also that's really uncomfortable. No, because as you and I have talked about before, I can do hard things. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just wear my northern Wisconsin, trapper hat, and I button it down. I mean, I don't look super cool right there, but
You look like a Canadian.
I do look like a Canadian. I bundle up, and then everybody in Oklahoma gives you crap about that. They're like, I don't know what you're griping about. Aren't you Canadian?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, no, I'm the worst.
Yeah.
The worst, because I hate the cold so much.
Stop making fun of my Elmer Fudd hat.
Exactly. I'm going to send you a picture. You'll have a good giggle.
Hey,
Oh, you will.
You know what? They can look crazy all they want, but when it's cold like that, people probably give you $100 for it. So you mentioned about doing hard things, and we talked about that earlier today, how it helps us and everything. So talk to me a little bit about, I did hear you mention about triathlon. When did you do this? How old were you, and how did that, what led up to that?
So, well, here's the thing you never knew about me.
Okay.
I lived most of my life at a weight that I did not want to be.
Okay.
Okay. And after I had the babies, it only got worse.
Okay.
And so I'm not a voracious reader. I like to read, but I don't have time to read. I have to make choices. So I don't read. But I did read a fascinating article that said, and I was 48 at the time. Yep. Fascinating article that said, if you are not exactly the body shape, type, person you want to be by 50, you might as well kiss it goodbye. You ain't ever getting it back, and here's the statistics to prove it. And it was laid out real formulaic and mathematical. And the reason would be that if you're overweight, your joints are going to start to fail. Now you're going to need a knee replacement. Now you're going to do it, and now you can't do the things that you wanted to do. Well, I was always very physically active, even though I was heavier than I wanted to be. I was always in the gym. I was always lifting weights. I was always running. But I have no qualms about giving you numbers. I was 196 pounds, and I was 48 years old, and I just said, no, it's not a dress rehearsal. What are you waiting for? And so it would have been 2019. It was late August. I was at a horse show in Mississippi, and I just said, I'm doing it. It's just going to happen. I'm doing it. And so I had read, Jenny Wentworth actually was the one who brought me into this whole concept of fasting. And I was like, fasting seems hard. Who wants to be hungry all the time? I don't want to do it. So I started researching this intermittent fasting. And I just started doing it. Great. It's basically a formula. I'm a perfectionist. I deal well with the formula. As much as I hate to admit it, I do. You're going to eat for these 6 to 8 hours, and the rest of it, you're just not going to. So 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock come by, boom, you're done. You can drink tea. You can drink water. And so now you're sleeping through your fasting hours. How do you know you're hungry at 3 a.m? You don't. This is pretty easy to do. Well, dang snap. That weight just fell off. And in 4 months, so by the time I went to Jim's clinic in January of 2020, so I started this at the end of August. By the time I went to January clinic, 4 months later, I was 132 pounds. I had lost over 60 pounds. Snap, just kept going off. And it was so empowering because it was like, why did you even not do this? Like your whole life, you were always like, oh, I need to lose 20 pounds. Oh, I need to lose 20 pounds. I need to. No, this just all of a sudden, it just made perfect sense to me. And the mental acuity that came with fasting, because doing difficult things, but it's also quite good for your body.
Like an ice bath.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. You can ice bath, I'll fast, and we'll call it good. I did my hard thing. Yeah. You do yours.
Yeah, it's not that bad. You get to where you kind of crave it every day.
Oh, you do. Well, Megan tells me that. Megan Warlick told me. Yeah. Anyway, so in the end, having lost that weight, then finally I realized, yeah, it's correct. You are not in a dress rehearsal right here. Why don't you set a new goal? Don't sit there and be like, well, I lost the weight. What's the next goal? Well, the next goal was get off the couch and keep doing something. You're doing all these things anyway. So a friend of mine in Bartlesville, she said, you should just come and triathlon with me and my brothers. Well, they are powerful little athletes. And I was like, I don't know. Well, I guess I could try. And so sure enough, that's how the whole journey started. And I was like, well, if you're going to set that goal, you can't just sit on the couch. You better be biking.
And this is at 50?
50.
Yeah, 50 years old.
Yeah, so I was 50 when I did that. Or 49 coming 50. That's how it was because I'd already lost the weight, but 50, yeah. And so, boom, she kind of helped me with the training program. And the running was easy enough for me. It was amazing. When you lose 60 plus pounds, guess what? It gets a lot easier to run. Yeah. It doesn't hurt so much. Yeah. You feel light as a feather.
Yeah.
And the swimming, I always figured I was a good swimmer. I did. I grew up as a fish. I mean, my dad chucked me in the water when I was 6 months old and I could swim.
Yeah.
I was a swimmer. Ironically, as with most things in life, the thing that you're the most confident about in a moment can derail you in that moment. So when I first got to that triathlon and the swim was the first part, I mean, I panicked at how cold the water was because it was open water. I panicked when I saw the speed that everybody else was swimming at because I was comparing myself to everybody going, oh my gosh. And meanwhile, they're all, crawling and water splashing everywhere.
But doesn't that relate to horse training?
Yes, it
we
does.
panic. We see where someone else's horse is after 90, 120.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh my gosh, look where they're at. But you have to trust the process.
1,000%.
And that happens in runners, and it sounds like it happened in your swimming.
It even happened. It happens to me everywhere I go. It happened here at the Extreme Cowgirl Challenge because you're going to go watch all these reiners go. Well, look, that's not, I'm super excited to go and participate right there, but I'm thinking, hey, if we can even just eke out some, could we be in the top 2/3? That'd be super cool, because there's a lot of really talented reiners out there. So I go and watch a few, and then the anxiety builds, and I go, oh God, it's time for you to go to your place. We're going to put your blinders on. Get your blinders on. Stay in your own lane. You do you. You can't do anybody else. You got to do you. And that always is somewhat of a comfort or a reassurance to myself to stop trying to be anybody else but yourself. In horsemanship, it's very important that you stay that way because otherwise, what are you going to do? You're going to compromise that horsemanship to actually...
At the show.
You're
going to go at the show and you're going to try to change something right before you show. And the horse is going to be like, hey,
what are you doing?
What are you on drugs? What are you doing? And it gets, and then it has here's probably the worst thing in that, it has a bad experience at the show.
Oh, right.
And you know as well as I do how hard that takes to change once you have that environmental bad experience. So they resonate, they relate the environment with how their mental state was, and then they get anxiety.
100%. And that's very hard to undo.
It is very difficult.
Very hard to undo. And so, a lot of times I feel like my horses, they crane their necks all the way around. They can turn all the way and look at me, stare me in the eye and be like, what in the hell are you doing? Yeah. Stop acting like a predator.
Yeah.
We don't do this. It's true. I don't. So, they all call me on it. Immediately you go, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's me. I know.
Yeah.
It's me again.
But I'm at the show and my peoples are watching.
That's right. Yeah. I'm a professional. I need to look the part.
Yeah.
Isn't that the dumbest?
Yeah.
That is the dumbest.
But it happens, and it seems to happen with your swimming. And so did you go out? You said you went out too fast?
Yeah, and the cold got me.
Yeah.
And I started to shallow breathe. And then people are so competitive in those triathlons that you can get pushed below the surface of the water. And so you have people swimming over top of you. You are down underneath and you can't get any air. Well, when you're already shallow breathing and the panic set in, and I just believed this is just too much. I don't know why I thought I could do this. I don't know why I thought I was ready for this. That's how it felt. I think I told you earlier. I cry swam, I cry biked, and I cry ran. There was a moment in every leg where I was like, it's too hard. I can't do this.
Yeah.
And then just deep down inside, there's that grit, there's that voice that's like, you can, you will. There's not an option. You will. Yeah. And I get real firm with myself in my head. And it just drives me to the next, one more step. Carrie, said today when I was going into the cutting pen, and I was feeling not stressed, but just like, I guess, not hesitant even, but just wondering how this is going to go. I must have been wearing it on my face. So Carrie said, just remember, it's one thing at a time. One thing at a time. And that is a magnificent motto for life, horse training, everything that we do. Because we want to get ahead 3 or 4 steps. I might be swimming this leg, but I'm thinking about how I'm going to get to that buoy over there. I might be swimming right here. I'm thinking about how I'm going to make my transition over here and get to that bike. This human mind, it constantly pushes us too far forward and out of the moment. And when somebody just will kindly remind you one thing at a time, all of a sudden it's such a relief. Yeah, my first thing, I got to cut this cow. That's the first thing. Don't worry about, how you're going to move it and show it, move it back and forth, cut it. That's the first thing. One thing, do that. Then do the next thing. Then do the next thing. So for me, that's how that triathlon process went too. It's just like telling myself, one thing, you can do this. And there I was. This will be humorous for you. I decided I don't care what everybody else is doing. I got my blinders on. They can all go do their overhand crawl and look really strong. I'm going to breaststroke. I'm going to backstroke. I'm going to do every stroke under the sun that is easy. Breaststroke is the easiest for me. Well, once you start doing that, well, then the safety boats come in on you. And they come on over and they say, hey, we're just going to get closer in case you need some help. And this is me. I probably can't swear right here. Mm-hmm. Right? So I probably can't swear right here, but I'm thinking.
We can bleep it.
You can bleep it because I'm thinking, move away from me immediately. Yeah. I mean, just so much anger and vitriol at that boat right there. Yeah. Don't even look at me, And so when I finally get out of the water, I'm probably in the bottom 5. And I'm thinking, it doesn't matter. One foot in front of the other, get to your transition zone. This is something you're doing. So boom, you got to dry off. You got to change into all your biking gear and off you go. And now it's a real hilly. It's in the Ozarks. It's real hilly up and down ride. And the funny thing that struck me was everybody had to have on the back of their calf, your age was on the back of your calf. Okay. And in black, like you could see it. And so for me, all of a sudden, it just became this thing. Yeah. I am 50.
Yeah.
You're 25. I am passing you. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like grinding.
It's a motivator.
It was a motivator. And so I get through the biking phase and I've improved my situation. Then we get to the running phase and that's a hilly run, improve my situation. And at that point, you're not super caring about the result. When I ran through the finish line, I mean, I thought I was an Olympian right there. My time wasn't anything great. But when they finally put you on the podium, and for my age group, I finished second.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my gosh, I almost didn't even make it through the swim.
Almost didn't make it, yeah. And it's I think it's the process of that chain reaction of thoughts in your head. For instance, if you're out running and your foot starts to hurt, my foot's hurting. Oh, well, it's probably just a blister. Okay, I'll heal from blister. Oh, no, you know what? It's a blister, and now I'm gonna put too much weight on that leg, and put too much weight on the other leg, and now I might tear something. Oh, if I tear something, now I can't train horses. So now I'm out of a job. So you know what? I better quit. I mean, it's easy to,
stop yourself.
And you have to have a big enough why. I always say your why has to be big because there's going to be times on that triathlon, on anything you do, you're going to, the mind is going to play tricks on you, try to talk you out of it. Mm-hmm. And when it does, you have to have a big enough why to get you through that. Big enough why. I heard a podcast one time and someone was talking. This guy, he coaches the SEALs when they go in. And he said people would come up to me, these 2B people were going to try to go through SEAL training, and they said, do you think I can make it? He said if they were asking me, I didn't tell them this, but more than likely they weren't going to. Because he said when I did it, I didn't go up to anybody and ask them if I could make it. He looks at it as like, well, people have done it.
Correct.
So, but if you ask yourself if you can make it, you're asking someone else's approval. What does their approval tell you? I mean, why do you need it? Why would you need it? So you're already having doubts.
100%.
You're having doubts. Do you think I can make it? And you're looking for reassurance is what you're doing. Someone to pep you up. Well, from what I've heard about that, you can't even have that little doubt because they're going to get it out of you. Yeah. You can't have quitters in that.
No, you can't.
They have too much money invested into them, and they don't want quitters.
But in that case, you got someone that might say something and help you talk yourself into it or out of it. Yeah. But 90% of the battle is talking inside of your own head.
Because he can tell them, I think you can make it all you want. But the fact that guy is asking you, it's done.
Yeah.
He will probably more than likely not make it through.
Right.
The training. That's how tough that is.
Yeah.
And we should support one another. I'm 100% for it, and we can sure lift one another up. And they said the best quality a SEAL can have is not the toughest, strongest, most endurance or anything. The people that make it through are the best teammates.
In life.
And that was shocking because people say, well, I'd say the strongest, or I'd say the ones with the most endurance, or who knows, the one with the most combat skills. It's not. It's the best teammate. Is what they said was the common denominator.
And so, that again, like I'm not going to cry because, that would be girly. But it does makes me emotional because isn't it like here we are at the Cowgirl Challenge.
Yes.
And, we're a group of 5 women.
Yes.
And we're working together and we all have different styles, different horses, different backgrounds, different, we're different from start to finish and everything, but we are a team. Mm-hmm. And I have heard nothing but encouragement, positivity, love. I mean, just so much energy around lifting everybody up. Even when somebody feels like they've dropped the ball or they didn't, and right away everybody's rushing in. Well, it's that whole concept that it's through that kind of encouragement in a team that's how your strength and your fortification can really, really shine when you know that your people that are around you, you've surrounded yourself with people that have your back. I was nervous for you to watch me work the cows. I'm like, oh, Jason, geez, he's our cow mentor. Now he's going to see how bad it is. And he's going to, he's going to be able to see all the bad things.
If I'm your cow mentor, you need a new mentor. I'm very limited.
That is nonsense. From morning to night.
No, it doesn't matter because, and we deal with that with non-pros a lot. They're worried about what everybody else is seeing.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody else is worried about their run. They're not even watching you.
No, I know. Isn't it the truth?
You think how many people you think you could go here today and says, "Hey, did I lose a cow or not?" And no one could even tell you if you lost a cow or not.
Right.
Because they don't care.
No.
They don't care.
That's right.
So why get worked up about it?
It appears that there's a lot of people looking on the sidelines, but they're
really looking,
not.
But they're not seeing.
No, that's right.
Yeah, we know how that goes. Yeah, listening to hear or just listening.
Correct. Yeah. So in the end, I do have to laugh at myself a little bit, but I will just say that is, for me, it's very fortifying to have that kind of team camaraderie and encouragement. When you're doing things that are challenging you, it's like nice to have.
Yeah, and you've got to have fun, but that don't mean. And when we bring up winning, I've had people say, I just want to go have fun. It doesn't matter about the winning. I said, well, okay, we got to stop right there, because I've never heard anybody that don't get their name called to the bottom of the list keeps going over and over again and keep doing it and says, boy, it's fun. You don't have to win every time, but you want to be getting better for you.
100%.
And you want to be, just putting your best effort. And if that doesn't happen, you end up quitting is what you end up doing because you're like, this is not fun. And so it's not just going. You can go and have fun, but it's not, the number one thing is not winning, but it dang sure every once in a while is nice to see you succeed.
100%.
And success can be measured different ways, but I went to shows and won and been more disappointed in my horse.
Than when you didn't.
Than when I didn't win. I've went and lost to some good people. And my horse was very good, and I was very happy.
Yeah.
I'm very happy and proud of my horse. But I've went and had some errors, but I was the best horse there that day. But that same run, I know, would not win me something at another show that I might have my eyes set on.
I actually love what you just said about winning, because the thing that my journey on winning is that through the hunter and jumper years, I was a visualizer. I was competitive as all get out. And I just never, ever failed to see myself winning. I knew I would win everything. And I did, which was the strangest thing. I would visualize it. I would work it over my head. I would empower myself to know that, and I would win. Win, win, win. I couldn't lose. That sounds awful when I say it that way. But I knew nothing. And now, I don't even want to do that. I don't want to visualize the win, because then the goal will override the process. And for me, the horsemanship process is so much more important than the goal, which is the buckle, the win, the ribbon, the whatever that is. It doesn't matter. So I don't even want to do that anymore. Now, I visualize positive imagery and success, but I'm not going to do it for the sake of winning. And more often than not, if I get shortchanged in a judging deal, or you know how it is, a judge, it's someone's opinion.
Yeah, they're not perfect either.
No, but because it's been so hard for me to shed that perfectionism that has burdened me my whole life and come into this horsemanship journey so fully. I mean, I'm so fully and completely immersed in that, because I just can't believe what is possible when you walk down that path and you mentor under people that share that same vision. But what I do now, and you'll laugh, I tell myself, if you're pissed off about the result, you're mad, you get 20 minutes. You go to your pouting trailer, shut up, sit down, drink a beer, then you're going to get your smile on, you're going to go and shake everybody's hand and congratulate them. Okay? That's what you're going to do.
You mentioned, I'm a judge, and I judge, and my wife judges, we're part of judges, and I told someone back at home the other day, they were talking about Little League or something, some dad had been mad, and I said, everybody should judge. everybody should coach the little league team so they can put up with the parents, and everybody should referee or umpire the game. And if your kid is involved in those sports, you have to, if it's in baseball, you have to do some kind of umpiring in one of the games. That way everybody gets their turn. Okay? And they'll have a lot more grace. And everybody needs to coach and be that coach. You know, my good friend, Chris Shore, he coached for, I think, 26 years or so, high school basketball. And we've talked about this a lot because we talk about coaching a lot. Matter of fact, some of the other podcasts I have are about coaching. And Chris has talked about a lot of experiences with parents. And I told him, I said, you know, it would be nice for every parent to coach at some point in time in their kids, adolescence or whatever. Yeah. And they would have a lot more grace with that coach. Because here's the deal. Coaches might do something wrong and judges may make a mistake. And people say, well, that's not fair. And I said, you tell me one person in life that's had 100% fairness in their life. You can go back to Jesus, and he wasn't treated fairly. No one. Life is not fair. And I look at it as if a coach makes a mistake or say it does something that you don't quite agree with, as long as it's not physically harming your kid, like a bad moral deal. I said, listen, it's okay. They got to learn right now that not every boss they work for, not every job they have, not every friend they have is always going to be fair.
Right.
And that's part of life. But we do better. We try to be better than that and learn from that. And so many times the parents go to bat for the kids at every little thing. And they're setting them up. I mean, who's going to do it when they turn 18 and they're at their job and they go, that wasn't fair? Or, I mean, really, they're 24 years old. Are they going to go home and tell their mom?
Well, some of them do. Now they do.
What's mom going to do? Call the corporation they work for and say, hey, you didn't treat my daughter right.
It actually happens.
Yeah.
It does.
It's
but
pathetic.
It's not correct.
It's pathetic. Yeah.
And the truth is, I mean, both of us are parents. You think about what is your job really? It's not to put a bubble wrap around them all and make the experience perfectly cathartic and easy. No, it's to build enough resilience that they can live as independent adults in the world.
Well, it's the same thing we do with horses.
Exactly.
We're starting horses so they can perform. And hey, if I have a client that's going to put this horse in, say it's going to use it on a ranch, I need to expose that horse to some of that. If they're going to put it in a shank bridle sooner than later, I would rather be the one. I feel like I'm doing the horse a bigger favor by putting it in early. It's not going to be a show horse. It's not going to stay in my program. I'm trying to get the horse prepared for what he's going to face.
Right.
And in situations so he can make it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if I just say, well, I'm just going to do him to my program like he's going to be a 2-year show horse, and then the Rancher Bob goes out and tries to do some things on him, and he's going to do his job. He's not a horse trainer. That is a tool.
Correct.
And it's a difference in getting a horse ready to just go be a tool or be a show horse.
Right.
And they need to be done different. And there's not just like a one-way deal. There's not.
100%.
And there's no one out there in the pasture when you doctor a cow putting down, well, he kind of was bad in the face when that guy roped him.
No.
They want to functionally get the job done.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody's looking at that gap mouth right there.
No, and if you put him too soft in the face, he's just going to be tucking his chin running off over the sunset, because of the leg relationship.
100%.
But so now you're in Bartlesville, you're training. Do you have a name for your...
I run. Okay, so it's also a cathartic kind of name.
Okay.
Experience. I named my business. I thought about this for a really long time, but it's Jenny Wren Horsemanship. And the reason I called it Jenny Wren Horsemanship was because when I was a little girl, my dad is British. Okay, and there is it's from the 1800s, some poem, and it's about little Jenny Wren and Robin Redbreast.
Okay.
It's a very famous English little poem, and it goes on and on and on. It's got lots of different verses to it. But I got the nickname Jenny Wren when I was very young, and all through my life, even like as an adult, my dad will still call me Wren or Rennie. And because it took me so long to come back to the very thing that I think made me my authentic self, I had to go back all the way to the youth and that childhood dream and bring back
that's awesome.
Jenny Wren as Jenny Wren Horsemanship. That's how.
So you run Jenny Wren, and you mostly do the Extreme Cowgirl. Extreme Cowgirl races, or what?
Yeah, so the thing about it is I started getting to ranch versatility, and I really,
Okay.
really enjoyed that for myself personally.
Yes.
And I have some really nice stock right now of my own. Then in the meantime, once you cast a business sign out, you kind of have to also do what your clients want to do. And most of my clients, they like the Extreme Cowboy race. And for the first time, I'm training a mule and doing all of that. But it's kind of going where the clients want me to go right now, as opposed to where necessarily if I were just doing it on my own right now, where would I go? Because I'd really like to get back to showing my own horses a little bit too and find some balance. I'm kind of a little bit out of balance right here right now. I got a couple of my own 2-year-olds I'm going to start this June, July.
Okay.
And then I've really got like some of my own stock I need to start promoting in concert with, training horses.
Okay.
But so for me, I would really like to migrate a little bit to other areas
ranch
as well.
versatility.
I really do.
It's
I really
a lot
do.
of fun. That's where the majority of our clients are
Yeah.
right now. I mean, it seems like there's been a big boom in that, and I think it's kind of saved the horse show world a little bit. The ranch versatility stuff. I mean, it's very popular.
And it builds a great horse. I mean, so that's why I always like EXCA too. There's some versatility in that as well. The speed element doesn't suit every horse at the pace and time in its training. You have to kind of evaluate that. But it does build a brave horse, so I like that. But I also think that you need a brave horse, but a versatile horse is really invaluable. I mean, because that's highly marketable, it's highly saleable, and it's safe. So it's what most people want. They want that versatility. And so, in the future, I hope to migrate more towards doing that in concert or balance with the obstacle stuff, finding a way to fit it all in.
Well, where do people, if they want to find you, are you on the good old Facebook and
I am.
Instagram and all that good stuff?
Nah, so
Are you a TikToker?
No.
Okay.
I'm not a TikToker.
Yeah.
I'm a reluctant tech user.
Okay.
Okay. And I even came late to the social media game.
Okay.
So, but Jenny Wren Horsemanship has its own page on Facebook.
Okay. What? Oh, so it's Jenny Wren.
Jenny Wren Horsemanship.
Okay.
Is on Facebook. And I'm at the point where I don't TikTok.
Yeah,
I don't have
either.
Instagram.
I don't tick. Yeah.
I don't. What is the other one? Snapchat.
Yes. I have Instagram. I do, and I do make some content for that. And I have Facebook. But if it wasn't for my business, I would have none of it. I wouldn't even have a phone. I would have a phone at home with a box that records all the messages. When I went out west the other day, there's no service for our company at the ranch because we are in the middle of nowhere. And I love it. And I put my phone on airplane mode because there's no service anyway.
Right.
And we headed back to catch our flight in Vegas. And I said, well, I'm going to turn it on. And it started dinging. It sounded like a concert. Oh. And there was 46 messages. That's just text. And that's not including messenger or voicemails or anything. And who knows who tried to call me. I have family who's like, "Are you okay? Where are you at?" You're not answering, but I love it. There's such a peace when I go to out west in the fall too, and get in the mountains. I oftentimes don't have service.
Yeah.
But I take an inReach, and it goes off global, a satellite or something, so that my wife, if an emergency happens, she can send me a message. We can text on that. But there's no calling. It's just an emergency device. And I come back so refreshed from not having my phone.
Yeah.
And you forget how much it just sets the mood for you. Because all it takes is seeing one thing off on there or something that bothers you, and then you'd be surprised how it just kind of deteriorates your mood.
Oh, for sure it does. Yeah.
Sure does.
So I try to block that out so that I can be the best I can for
That's
every
awesome.
horse that's underneath me.
Awesome.
And then,
So all you have a website?
no, I mean, I'm
You
done.
still have- Man.
Well, yeah. Okay, so listen, I was just talking to some.
Do you have a bag phone? A flip phone? You have a flip phone.
My boys are constantly all over me about, Mom, you need to get with the program. But I was just talking to a very savvy young man who's running our UHCA now, and he was saying, oh, no, websites are antiquated. There's no point in having one. And I thought, great. I missed the boat just at the right time.
Yeah, you're perfect. If you don't do it, you'll come back in style.
Exactly. Yeah. By being anti-technology, I'm really avant-garde. I'm leading the charge. Yeah. Right? I'm ahead of technology. Yeah.
One thing I do like my podcast. I listen to podcasts a lot, and if I'm ever on the road or an airplane or anything, I've got a podcast on.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like getting a lot of information on there. I enjoy the listening.
Yeah.
And it's quite a plethora of different topics. I mean, people said, really? You listen to that? I said, yes. Yes. But, all right, so they can find you on Jenny Wren.
Jenny Wren Horsemanship on Facebook.
On the old book face.
Yep.
Yeah. And, well, it's been fun.
Thank you for having me, Jason. I really appreciate it.
It's been a lot of
super
fun. And I'm glad we got the time. I've been meaning to do this for a while. And when we were coming out here, I said, I'm throwing all my equipment. And I'm going to try to get a sit down with at least one or two people out here and have a visit. And it was a lot of fun. And I'm glad you sit down. I hope we do good tomorrow. I think Carrie has to rope a cow in the morning.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, that'll be the first time, I promise. Yeah, I think she's roped a couple of old roping steers at the house like 6-7 years ago. Yeah. But she swings a pretty good loop.
She sure does, and she's got it. She's got a winning smile and attitude.
Yeah, winning smile, that's all it takes.
Yeah. And we're delighted that she was able to join us and be on our team. It's been so much fun.
It has been.
And we've been so grateful to have you here. You know what? That has been a bonus.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
You're supposed to be somewhere else right now, but we're super grateful that you're here.
I've enjoyed it, and I think they're wanting to bring us back again because it looks about as dry as a popcorn fart out there right now, and it's thundering.
I know. We're good luck.
Like, we brought the rain.
Every time we come out here, we bring the rain.
I mean, there is nothing out here.
Yeah.
It was 2.5 miles long trot to that trail course yesterday.
Yes, it was.
It was awesome.
Do you know how many times I went out to that trailhead?
How much?
3 times.
3 times.
Chevy, by the time the little horse I'm riding, Chevy, by the 3rd time I went out there, I mean, you should have just seen the look on his face. It was so withering, like you've got to be joking. But I couldn't get a slot, and I had to be back for my rating pattern. So, boom, we're back out. Yeah. And that 3rd time, I just laughed. I was
it's a pretty awesome thing. They have it annually here at Perry Quarter Horses.
Correct.
In Leota, Kansas.
Yep.
Extreme Cowgirl Challenge.
Correct.
There are 20 teams, 5 lady teams.
Correct.
And it's a pretty good deal. They rein, they do trail, they had cutting today, and then they have
steer
stopping tomorrow, and then the finals, the top 10,
top 4 teams,
top 4
teams.
4 teams are in the finals tomorrow afternoon.
Correct. Yeah. And so this is their 2nd year of running it. Last year was the first inaugural year of them doing this, and the response was so incredibly positive. People came from far and wide.
Yeah, well, there's people here from Calgary, from Texas, from
Arizona.
There are teams here from all over the place, and Jason Perry is the one that puts it on. Correct.
Jason and CJ.
Yeah, and CJ, and it's a really nice place. I mean, I would like to get them pulled to the side here, but I don't know if I'll be able to or not. They are very busy.
They are, but they are just delightful people. They have been so hospitable. They're wonderful to work with here.
Yes.
It's such a great event for, I would say anybody should come and give this a try because it's like rooted in camaraderie. This is a really friendly group.
Yeah.
Of people to show with and get out and do things you love to do on your horse.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Jennifer Peterson, Wren, and Jenny Wren Horsemanship on Facebook. You guys can check her out. And until next time, we'll talk to you later.